All right, so remember when we are looking at decimals, and if we look at the place value chart, if we're moving to the left on the place value chart, going from ones to tens, it's getting 10 times bigger each time, tens to hundreds. So anytime we're moving to the left, it's 10 times bigger for each place value. So if we're moving to the right, though, it's going to be 1/10 the size of each place value. So we've got the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousandths. So whenever we're comparing decimals, we can use a number line to kind of help to compare, to know, if it's greater than, less than, or equal to. So I've got a number line drawn here from 0 to 3, but then, in between 0 and 1, if I divide it into tenths, I'd have 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, all the way up until I get to 10/10, which would make one whole. And then I would have 1 1/10, 1 2/10, and that's where this number is that I'm comparing to 1 4/10. So I've got 1 3/10, then 1 4/10, and then I just keep going. 1 5/10 would be the same thing as 1 1/2, because we can see that's halfway between 1 and 2. So 1 5/10 is the same thing as 1 1/2. Then I just keep on going, and I've got 1 9/10 right here, and then I would go up to 2 here. So, looking at the number line, I can see that 1 2/10 is less than 1 4/10. Then up here, I can break it down to hundredths. So I've got 6/10 here, and then I've got 7/10 here. So in between 6/10 and 7/10, I would have 61 hundredths, 62 hundredths, 63 hundredths, 64 hundredths. Here I've got 65 hundredths, and I just keep going, and then I get 69 hundredths, and then I go up to 7/10, which would be the same thing as 70 hundredths. So if I were comparing 7/10 and 70 hundredths, these are going to be equal to each other. 7/10 is the same amount as 70 hundredths. After a decimal point, I could place zeros at the back of a number and it doesn't change the value. So these two are still going to be equal to each other. Now, if I had, let's say that I had this 6/10 here, and I'm comparing that to 65 hundredths. 65 hundredths is going to be more than just the 6/10 or 60 hundredths. So 60 hundredths is going to be less than 65 hundredths. And then if I had 6/10 and I'm comparing that to 6 hundredths, 6 in the tenths place is going to be more than a 6 in the hundredths place. This one has 0 tenths. So that tells you that 6/10 is going to be greater than 6 hundredths. So use these number lines to help you as you were comparing the decimal numbers. And I'm going to go ahead and let you work on your form now.